Hi, I'm Pastor Mark, and welcome back to our Holy Week devotions. We're here for our sixth installment, and for that, I want to read to you from Mark chapter 15, starting at verse 1. It's a longer passage, but Mark chapter 15, verse 1, it says, "Very early in the morning, the chief priests with the elders, the teachers of the law, and the whole Sanhedrin made their plans. So they bound Jesus, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate. 'Are you the king of the Jews?' asked Pilate. 'You have said so,' Jesus replied. The chief priests accused him of many things, so again Pilate asked him, 'Are you going to answer? See how many things they are accusing you of.' But Jesus still made no reply, and Pilate was amazed. Now, it was the custom at the festival to release a prisoner whom the people requested. A man called Barabbas was in prison with the insurrectionists who had committed murder in the uprising. The crowd came up and asked Pilate to do for them what he usually did. 'Do you want me to release to you the king of the Jews?' asked Pilate, knowing it was out of self-interest that the chief priests had handed Jesus over to him. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have Pilate release Barabbas instead. 'What shall I do then with the one you call the king of the Jews?' Pilate asked them. 'Crucify him!' they shouted. 'Why? What crime has he committed?' asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, 'Crucify him!' Wanting to satisfy the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Well, the rulers of Jesus' own people have trumped up charges of blasphemy against him and decided he's worthy of death because it. But because they are under Roman rule, they cannot carry out a death sentence without the approval of the Roman governor. So they take Jesus to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, and say, "Hey, we want to kill this guy." So Pilate questioned Jesus more than once, we're told in the Gospels, and he finds no reason for Jesus to be punished. So Pilate multiple times tries to set Jesus free. But the leaders of the Jewish people, they stir the people up into a frenzy. And they get the crowd so riled up that the crowd ends up shouting for Jesus to be crucified, while Barabbas, the murderer, is released among them. Is some of the people in the crowd calling for Jesus' crucifixion? These may have been some of the same people in the crowd who had hailed Jesus as king as he rode into Jerusalem just 5 days earlier. It makes no sense. And Jesus stands there, a victim of it all. First, the leaders of the people had turned against him, and then his closest followers, right down to his best friend, had deserted him and denied him. The Romans have scourged him with whips, and they've ripped his flesh open with them. And now the people, the crowd, the world weighs in and completely rejects him. I mean, at this point, his rejection is complete. He had created them all, had been among all of them, healing them. He had loved them all. And now they demand that he be crucified. It makes no sense. But this is the final step. This is the death sentence. This is the last peg that needs to be knocked down to clear the way for Jesus' brutal death. And ultimately, Pilate gives the order. He pretty much, like everyone else, proves that he doesn't care about justice. He doesn't care about what is right. He just wants to be done with this. And so he hands Jesus over to be crucified. It's a done deal now. It's not fair. It's not just. It's not right. Jesus knows it. And at any moment, he could have called 10,000 angels to swoop in and save him and prove who the true king, who's the true ruler here, and to deal with all these people, this entire crowd of people who were coming against him. But instead, he chose to die for you and me. That's what he did for you and me. God bless.